Hi there and welcome to the Ukestuff channel. And I have been working on restringing and doing some maintenance on our ukuleles in our schools that we had before we bought the flight ukuleles, the flight kids for all of our elementary schools. And not all of our elementary schools had ukuleles, but some of them did. And those that did were restringing them with the kid strings and eventually going to be checked out by our media center. So that's all great. And how I normally string, you can sort of see the strings roll over the top and they always go from the bottom up. So the strings always, you get as much string break as you can. Well, I came across, after working on these diamond heads, I came across these diamond heads and look at the size. Not only are the ears big on all these tuners, but look at the size of the posts on these tuners comparatively. I mean, it's like they're literally twice as high, and I was having some trouble restringing them. So I was like, what is the solution here? So let me pull up one of them that is still strung from the factory. I'll show you what they did. So let me pull up one of them that is still strung up by the factory so you can see what they did in case you end up with an ukulele with posts that are giant like this. So as I look at this, if you can see what they did, it looks like they started winding, but they made sure that the lead of the string went underneath a few of the loops. So it's like held against the post. That's kind of a different way than I normally string my ukuleles, but it's what has to happen so that the string doesn't unwind or just pop out, regardless of the number of strings here. I'll show you what I did on the previous ukulele before checking this, and then what I need to fix for the next one. So as I was working on this one, before I kind of realized what was going on, I tried to string these normally, but what you end up with is this little tail here that might pop through and unwind. So even though it's winding from the bottom up like it should, and you don't want too much like on the C string, I was trying to solve the problem by the time that I got there, I think feeding it through is what the solution is going to be. So let's do that with the next ukulele and we can talk about how that's going to look. Now, as these are slotted bridges, I'm just going to make a knot and put it towards the very end of the string, and that will go into the slotted bridge, and then I'll feed it up. So let's do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the knotted side in the slotted bridge and try to hold that tight up to the nut up here, and then I'm going to feed the string through the post. Now here's where this is going to get tricky. Is I want to give it some slack so that it tightens against itself, but then I'm going to have to hold this tight here. And the cool part is there is a second hole on these tuning posts, so you can actually feed it through this way. You see that? So there's a second hole, so you can sort of create a little loop bump in that tuning post. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the string right here, about where I've got that sticker for our school district, and then I'm going to start winding it appropriately. I'm going to use my other hand here. And of course, I always want it winding over the top of the ukulele. So here we go. Now it kind of slipped out of that nut slot, but I'll show you that in a second once I get a little bit of tension up here, making sure that I put it back into the bridge slot down there. There we go. And I'll keep winding. I've got a way to do this faster, and I'll show you that next. But I'm just winding. This really makes for exciting video. We're almost there. And all I have to do is get it under tension where it will hold by itself. So there we go. So you're in your slotted bridge there. The string is oddly looped through, and then I can cut it at the bottom. So at least that will hold, and I don't have to worry about that unfolding, and I did not know that with the first one. So I've strung a lot of ukuleles in my life. I've never strung one with a double post hole like that. Now, let's do a C string, and I'll also do with my automatic winder or my automatic tuner to show them how much faster that can go. Now, the first thing I'll have to do is to make a knot in the C string, and there's going to be some extra play here, so I don't have to worry about saving strings. So the kid strings are made for tenor, soprano, or concert ukulele, so you really have some extra space when you're dealing with, for example, like a soprano like this. Now, the biggest trick sometimes can be getting that tied string into your slotted bridge with the thicker strings. So once you get it in there, hopefully it stays. But then again, we're going to go up to the top, we're going to run it through the post, and then we're going to run it down underneath through the bottom of the post as well. Again, it's so awkward. It's not something that you're used to doing if you change a lot of ukulele strings. And then I'm going to wind over the top. And I'm going to make sure that's tight, and it's going to get squeezed as I tighten the string here. So it works, but those tuning peg posts are really, 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 really tall, really too tall for what you generally would want. But hey, it's what we have, and it appears that Diamond Head is not doing that anymore. So it looks like they're not using those types of tuners anymore, but man, is it ever different to have to interact with that. All right, so I actually forgot that I was going to show you the auto winder, and I just used the manual winder, but I'm making the loop at the end of the string. Again, you don't have to be super cautious about that because you get the length of a tenor. And I'm going to cut off the very, very end of the tail as I put that into the slotted bridge. Okay, that's going to go into the slotted bridge right here. Pull it up. Then we're going to do this goofy process of feeding it through both holes. That's so strange to do a loop on a tuning peg, but it is what we have to do. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Jawum automatic tuner right here, and I'm going to tune up always, and it's just going to wind the correct direction as I hold it down here. And this is definitely not as pretty as it normally turns out. In fact, it's sort of winding around the post itself. But then the cool part is you can tune as you go. So here's the G string, the C string, now the E string, which is not there yet. And it's going to keep going out of tune. By the way, with the Aquila Kid strings, I think this is also true of Aquila Nile Guts. I'm going to go higher a little bit and just let it settle in here. All right, and just as a reminder, with the Aquila strings, any kind of Aquila like Nile Gut, and these are basically Nile Guts but just colored, what I find is that the C and the E strings actually go out of tune the most. You would think that being the thickest and feeling the hardest that they would actually be the least giving, but over time they appear to be the most when I just tune ukuleles in general. But so not quite in tune, but we don't expect it to be yet. But it's getting there, and now I can finish this up. But yeah, that doesn't look anywhere near as nice as a smaller peg and just traditional winding from the bottom up. All right. So if you end up with an ukulele with giant pegs like this, for sure some of these older Diamond Heads, you can do this. You can use the post and the double holes to solve the problem so that it doesn't unravel on you, and you can wind it. All right. I hope the video has been helpful for you. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more uke stuff for you.